All the social media. Come on.
Just give us a minute, all right? Just hold on.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the writers panel. Obviously, this is M.A. Larson at the end of the table.
Hello.
And Amy Keating Rogers.
Hello.
And so what we'll be doing is I'll ask a couple general questions, and we'll open it up to Q&A. We've got a microphone here. I think somebody back there will be able to hand it to people as needed. You got that covered? Okay, thank you. So anyway, I guess maybe just to start off, because how many people here, this is your first Brony convention ever?
Whoa.
Wow.
This is one of the reasons
That's
why we wanted to
unbelievable.
have a convention in Minnesota, because I know from personal experience, it's kind of a pain to get around the country. But anyway, so for those people who may not have heard it before, maybe just if you could each talk about how you got involved in writing for My Little Pony.
I'll go first. So I got involved. I first started writing for animation very, very accidentally. So I'll back up to when I first started writing in general. I started writing, first of all, I was an actor to begin with. And
Buy
did you want to
Coke,
open
everyone.
a soda? Did you need a drink?
This panel.
Yeah.
Are you ready now? Can I talk?
Hold on.
The panel is sponsored by Coke. So.
Get this. My Coke says friend on it. I've been Coke friend zoned.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Are you ready now? Can
I
talk?
haven't.
So I started as an actor, and then I kind of fell into writing because I was at Occidental College as a theater major, and I needed to take a class to kind of finish my degree, and I took a playwriting class, and I turned out I was good at it. And so I wrote plays, and then I was getting my MFA in acting at Cal Arts, and I was writing more plays. And then I graduated, and I was trying to pursue acting, which was hard. And then I had a play up being produced in Hollywood while I was a production assistant on the Powerpuff Girls, and they needed help with the writing. And I said, hey, I write. And so Craig McCracken gave me a chance. And so I started writing for the Powerpuff Girls. And when I was on the Powerpuff Girls, I became friends with Lauren Faust. Right? And so years passed, and I was at the wrap party for Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. And Lauren came up to me and said, hey, I'm pitching this new version of My Little Pony. If it gets picked up, I would love for you to write on it. And I said, I would love to write on it if it gets picked up. And so when it got picked up, Lauren called me, and I was in the first meeting. We broke the pilot episode. Lauren had the original idea for the pilot episode, but it was me, Lauren, and a man named Paul Rudish, who was on Powerpuff Girls and Samurai Jack and Dexter's Lab, and he's an amazing artist. Currently, he's on the new Mickey shorts, if you've seen those on Disney. So it was me, Paul, and Lauren broke the pilot episode of My Little Pony. And if you don't know what breaking a story is, it's when you, even though Lauren had the original idea, when you break a story, it's when you really figure out all the details and go through it and really make sure you have enough for, that 2-part episode. And so then we figured all that out, and I actually wrote the outline for the pilot, and then gave it to Lauren, and Lauren, of course, went and wrote the script for it. So that's how I got involved with My Little Pony. And then I wrote with Ticketmaster. Lauren had written an 11-minute version of Ticketmaster, but then it was decided that Pony was going to be a 22-minute show, and so we got together and figured out how to make it a longer episode, going through each of the ponies, and what would each of them want to go to the Grand Galloping Gala. And so then I took her episode and, made it, beefed it up. So that's why if on that episode, it has both of our names. So that's how I got involved with the show.
I moved to LA in 2005, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And a friend of mine was a storyboard artist on a show at Cartoon Network called My Gym Partner's a Monkey. And he's like, we need writers. Why don't you try to get on the show? So I wrote a couple of spec scripts, which is just... A spec script is like you just pick a show that you like and write an episode just to show off your writing. So I wrote 2 SpongeBobs and gave them to My Gym Partner's a Monkey people, and they hired me. So I got in there having like 0 experience whatsoever in animation, and did that for a season and a half, and it was ending, and I was freaking out, like, what am I going to do? And I got called in for 1 episode of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I don't even know how, but somehow they brought me in, which was great. That's where I met Lauren and Robert Renzetti, who was the story editor for the first 2 seasons of MLP. And we had a great time. I wrote the episode. It was right at the end of the show, so I only got to do 1 of them. And then, that ended, and I went on to some other jobs. And a guy that I knew had heard that Lauren was on My Little Pony and heard that they were looking for writers. So I emailed her and said, hey, do you need anybody else? And she said, sure. So they brought me in on that. So there you have it.
So for those of the audience who don't know, maybe could you list maybe a couple of the episodes that you've written and maybe 1 or 2 of your favorites to write for and why?
I wrote all the good ones.
What about the season 3 finale one? What about that one? No, it was a good one.
Swarm of the Century, Sonic Rainboom, Cutie Chronicles, Return of Harmony, Ludy Eclipsed, etc., etc., etc. I think she and I are vying for most episode credits.
We
I think you're ahead of me.
Now I think I am. I actually had to make a list of them because I forget because people ask me. Ticketmaster, Applebuck Season, Bridal Gossip, Dog and Pony Show, Fall Weather Friends, Best Night Ever, Cutie Pox, A Friend Indeed, Last Roundup, Mystery on the Friendship Express, and then that was to the end of season 2. Then in season 3, I didn't write anything. Season 4, I wrote Pinkie Pride, Philly Vanilli, and the Testing 1 2 3. No, that's it.
Where was your list, M.A. Larson? Where was your list? Well, maybe then if you could each pick 1 episode that kind of sticks out. I mean, it's hard to pick favorites, of course, but one that sticks out that you really enjoyed writing for, and what about that made it fun to write for?
You want to go?
Most recently, it was Testing 1 2 3, just because it was a lesson that really spoke to me personally because of my son, and just always trying to find a different way to teach somebody, and never giving up, and that everybody that people learn differently, and so to try different methods, and I think that's such a good lesson to teach people and to make people aware of, and so I thought that was cool, and that every pony came together in Ponyville came together to teach Rainbow Dash, and I thought that was really awesome. And when I saw the episode, it actually, like, at that moment when they were going through and showing how they taught Rainbow Dash, I actually, and I am a weeper, but oh my gosh, I teared up, and it just touched me. I was so glad that what I imagined came through in the episode so nicely. So that one for me was really cool.
I would probably say Return of Harmony or Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 for similar reasons. They both forced me to be exposed to things I didn't have any interest in, like The Music Man and Star Trek.
No interest at all?
No interest whatsoever in musicals or sci-fi.
Come on.
I know.
Come on.
But it's changed now. Like, that's my point. That's my point. I had to watch all these Star Treks because Lauren and Rob's idea for Discord was obviously Q, and I was like, what the hell is that? I don't know what that is. So I had to I had to watch all his episodes. Well, I only had to watch one or two, but I ended up watching all of them because they were so fun and so good, and I really got into it. And same with The Music Man. I adamantly hated musicals. Then I watched The Music Man. I was like, oh, okay, I'm missing out. Like, this is really good. Yeah. So I guess it's that. It just kind of opened my horizons, both of those episodes.
And I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do either of you or both of you have a favorite character to write for, and if so, why?
Oh, people know this, I think. I really enjoy writing for Pinkie Pie. And I'm totally, this is a shameless plug. You should, well, 2 shameless plugs. Okay, first shameless plug is the Journal of the Two Sisters is coming out, and if you haven't pre-ordered it, buy it. It comes out on Tuesday, and in in the second half, so the first half of the book is about Celestia and Luna. The second half of the book is the Friends, the Journal of Friendship section, where the Friends journal. And Pinkie Pie actually didn't have a lot of journal entries in the episodes. So, but I needed to fill out the rest of the book. And Pinkie Pie, kind of has a lot to say. And since I happen to like Pinkie Pie a lot, she has some kind of verbose journal entries that you might want to read that are kind of awesome. Second shameless plug, if you guys were at the opening ceremonies, come to my Pinkie Pride singing thingamajig tomorrow, because my version of the songs are fun, and Pinkie awesomeness will happen. So that's it. I like Pinkie.
So do I. My favorite to write would be Rarity. Just because I think it's, I don't know, it's obvious, right? She's really funny, and I like when you can take characters who have sort of a pompous view of themselves and, throw rocks at them, and then, but also show the underside of that, and that she really is, like in Ponyville Confidential, where she's being all hypocritical with her sister, but then you kind of see the reason for it and the love underneath it. Like, I like that kind of thing. I think she's really easy to do that with.
In the past, I've talked on other writers' panels about, there seems to be about 2 different kinds of, and of course this is probably oversimplifying it, but there are 2 types of episodes in the show, really. It seems like there are the adventure episodes and the character building episodes. And of course, all the episodes have elements of each. But which is more fun for you to write, or that you enjoy writing more? The more like the story arc type of stuff, like the big epic stuff, or is it more developing the individual characters? Or is it some kind of a balance?
I very much prefer the second one.
Yeah.
The smaller, more character ones.
Yeah, I'm much more a character person.
I tend to, even in scripts that I'm reading or movies that I go see, when the action starts, I just kind of be like, until it's done. Like, I just saw the X-Men movie, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
But every time a big action scene started, I was just kind of like, okay, is this going to end soon? Let's get back to the really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So you're a huge fan of Michael Bay, then?
Oh, yeah, the best. The best. So good with characters.
Armageddon. Let's do it. Well, one thing that we've talked about several times, and I keep bringing it up because I think it's such a great analogy for it, or at least an idea for writing. You've said in the past that for you, the best scripts are the ones where you take conflicting characters and juxtapose them. Could you kind of detail that for these guys a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Well, that's another thing that I liked about testing 1, 2, 3 is that, and it was a combination we hadn't seen. It was putting Rainbow Dash and Twilight together, and they just conflict. You have this egghead, and you have this pony who doesn't want to study, and you throw them together, and what are they going to do? And so and that's a great example of it wasn't an action show. It was these 2 characters and them butting heads, and what's going to come of it, and how are they going to deal with this situation. And I was wondering, I was wondering how, when I was writing it, boy, this is going to be a really talky episode, which makes me thrilled because I love dialogue. But I was going, oh boy, they're going to be just. I was afraid it was going to be boring, and I was so happy when I watched the episode. I was like, oh, it's not boring, and I was really impressed with how they storyboarded it and all of that. The whole scene, I imagined it differently with Rainbow Dash. The whole thing with her on the. I didn't imagine her on a stool. I actually imagined her hindquarters being on a squeaky board and and really just like seeing her forgive me, her butt cheeks, just like going squeak, 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 and just like seeing little booty action.
And that's why you're not a storyboard artist.
And that is why I'm not a storyboard artist. Yep. I'd get fired. Yeah, that'd be really bad. And they were probably like, inappropriate, Amy. And that's why they put it on her on a stool. And that's good. And they very wisely brought Spike in, and they brought Owlicious in, and they were in the, and they made it a little trio there, and it was awesome. And again, way smarter than me. And it was brilliant, and it made it just, they made it just so much more, visually interesting, and they, it was really, really awesome. But none of that was in there, which I just want to also mention as far as, what we write, and then the collaboration, I guess, or the, each step makes things better and better and better as we go along. But yeah, that what this started with was that it's these two characters that end up conflicting with each other, and that's what makes it an interesting story. I mean, if it was two characters that got along, who needs to see that? Oh, we're having a lovely day.
Well, I think Larson, you described it once as almost like Seinfeld, where you get these characters and you put them in a situation and they just kind of develop themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's the beautiful thing about Lauren's original concept in her Bible is she's got 6 main characters, which is a lot, but they all have their own unique personality. So you can basically put any 2 of them together or 3 of them together, and it'll create its own situation. Just what Amy was saying about Rainbow Dash and Twilight. So, I don't want to trash on other shows that I've worked on, but I worked on the show Disney Channel called Kick Buttowski, Suburban Daredevil, and we had such a hard time getting the show going. This was the very beginning before it was on the air, because they had these 3 main characters, and it took months before we realized, wait a minute, this 3rd character doesn't do anything. Like, she gets along with everybody. There's no conflict anywhere, so we just killed her off. And all of a sudden, it's like,
you're too agreeable.
We sort of realized in that process, it's a buddy show. It's just these 2 guys, and she was kind of throwing the whole thing off. So Lauren just did such a nice job of giving you those 6, and then also these minor characters who you can now throw in. Like I pitched an episode, I think it was for season 4, that didn't get made. So I'll just tell you what it was. It was basically, I just wanted to pair up Luna and Applejack. So I thought that was like a fun, weird pairing. And it's this idea that Luna wants to experience more of the daytime hours, so she ends up becoming friends with Applejack in a natural way. And it was just, the whole idea I had was Luna and Applejack at the beach. But they didn't go for it, so.
You should talk to the comic writers about that. They might work that in. Who knows?
Oh, really?
Who knows, yeah.
They have so much more freedom than we do. It's not fair.
Well, you mentioned something that kind of touches on this when you were discussing the scene with Rainbow Dash on the stool, going back and forth, that Spike and Owlicious appear in there, and you didn't write that in the script. Right. Were there ever? I mean, that's something that the storyboarders and the animators added later to kind of enhance the scene or whatever. Was there anything, I guess, just to give you a frame, anything in season 4, aside from that you saw in the episodes after you watched them, long after you had written them, that kind of surprised you, little things that the animators did maybe? Because I think a lot of people don't realize that those kind of details are often added at a later stage than the script writing. Anything come to mind? Well,
one thing that I wanted to see that I put in there, and they changed it, and it's, cool, things change. In Pinkie Pride, when she's trying to figure out in her Pinkie's Lament, she's trying to figure out, I have to find another job, and she goes to do construction, and she does the balloons as like the girder, and that doesn't work. What I had her do was I had her selling pies at like the Apple family stand. And so she's at the apple farm, and they're selling pies, and Soren flies down from Cloudsdale to go buy a pie, and he goes, and he's like, there to buy a pie, and Pinky is offering it to him, but she can't handle it, and she just puts it in her own face, and poor Soren goes, and I desperately wanted to see that, and so when I didn't see that, I went. So that's something that it just changed. They came up with something different, and those are just little things that happen.
Yeah.
Was there anything like that in an episode that you wrote?
I think the stuff that is the most exciting is the character design kind of stuff. Like when I saw Discord or the Flim Flam Brothers or their machine, I didn't know exactly what I thought it was going to look like when I was writing it, but then I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's basically it. So it's nice to be on a show where you don't have to worry about that, because there's a lot of times on other shows where you have to describe things so in depth just to make sure that it comes across, and it still doesn't. But in this show, you can just kind of say, I think I said it was like a Dr. Seuss style machine or whatever. And then I saw it, I was like, I didn't even know what I wanted, but that's what I wanted. So they're great with that stuff.
Yeah. It's amazing how what you put down there and then what ends up, it's even more. Their minds are so much, they're visual people, and so they probably read what we write and they're like, come on, and then they just go way more amazing.
Well, before we open it up to Q&A, because we'll be doing that in a moment, I have one last question for the both of you. You both have new books coming out. Actually, you just mentioned a minute ago, Journal of the Two Sisters, that I wish was coming out 2 days earlier we could have it here.
I know.
It's already out in Japan. How evil is that? I know, right? But Emmy Larson, you have a book coming out in October.
Yes. Called
Pennyroyal Academy.
It's about princesses. It's a middle grade novel that I pitched back in 2006 as a cartoon, and it got picked up, and we developed it for a while, but then nothing happened, so I wrote it as a book. And Penguin is putting it out in October. So it's like a middle grade, sort of a little bit female skewing Harry Potter style thing about a Grimm's fairy tale world with princesses and witches and stuff. Comes out October 7th.
Now,
it has horses in it.
My understanding, actually, and first of all, we did a really good discussion about that book for EFN just 2 weeks ago. But my understanding is that you may have a preview copy available here.
Yeah, I got one copy to put into the charity auction on Sunday.
So if you'd like to read it, about how many months is that now? Like
5, I think.
5?
Yeah.
Math is eluding me. How many months is it till October? 4?
4.
We'll call it 7. If you'd like,
it's called an advanced reader copy. It's not the final copy, so there aren't many of these things.
They're rare.
And it'll have typos and my mistakes in it, which hopefully the final one won't.
Just imagine what the nerds online could do with that later. just imagine. No, but that will be available in the charity auction. But I guess follow-up question there really quick is, what was your experience like writing for books as opposed to writing scripts for? This is a giant question, I know, but like the biggest difference for you between writing for books and writing scripts for television shows.
I'd be super curious if you have the same answer.
You go first.
I had been writing scripts for cartoons for years before I wrote this book, so I was just in that mindset. But writing a script and writing prose are so different. You write a script, it's in present tense. Your sentences are supposed to be short as humanly possible. There's adverbs all over the place. And you can do these little tricks, like if your line goes down one word to the next line, you can change the word, like instead of wants to, you can say keen to, which is one letter shorter, and it'll move the whole thing up, and maybe you'll lose a page. So you can like game the system with a script to get it down to the right page count. But then when I'm writing the book, I'm like, oh, I can actually just use the word I want and not worry about how long
the word
it is.
that you're keen on?
Yeah, exactly. So writing a script is so much more like technical, and you have these boundaries, and and I noticed when I was writing the book, I kept slipping into the present. I'd start in the past tense, I'd go back to read it, and like, oops, there I went into present tense, and now the rest of it's in the present tense. So it was like little technical things like that were really hard to change, especially since I was writing scripts at the same time, so I had to bounce back and forth.
Yeah. The journal is the journal's weird. I mean, it was journal entries, so that was totally different. And I had to. The weird thing about the journal is that I had to deal with things that were set up already in the show. So, for instance, with the Celestian Luna stuff, I had certain things that. So I had hearts warm. So, sorry. It's the Journal of the Two Sisters section of it starts with Celestian Luna being asked to be the princesses of Equestria. So what I know from that is the hearts-warming Eve. Gosh, that's hard to say. Tale. And so we know that the three tribes were not getting along, and then they got along, and then we know that at the end of that play they raised the flag of Equestria, right? Okay, well, but what happened in between there? So they got along, and then suddenly the Luna and Celestia flag is raised. So I was going, what? And so that's one thing that we know that I had to deal with. And then the second thing that I had to deal with was that Luna knew the Royal Canterlot voice. Thanks, Mitch. She knew the Royal Canterlot voice, yet she never lived in the castle of Canterlot because she had been banished before it had been built.
It's not my problem.
Thanks,
That's
M.A.
your problem.
Larson. I still believe in you.
I'm tempted to just drop the mic.
So I know this isn't what you asked, but I'm just telling you.
No, I'm glad you're answering that.
So at the beginning of the book, my biggest puzzle were these pieces of how did they become the princesses. So I actually called Lauren and I said, "You want to have some lunch?" And Lauren and I met, and I said, "Do you have any idea how these two became princesses? Who asked them? What happened?" And she said, it wasn't really part of what I set up with the world. They were, that wasn't part of what, when she first thought of the show, that wasn't part of it. She said, "So let's talk about it. Let's spitball." And so we talked about it. And what I took notes on when we had lunch, as I wrote, things changed and developed depending, I had to submit stuff and things kind of changed and altered. And so I dealt with the Canterlot-ness, and I developed what this backstory was. And then you find out what these two sisters did from being asked to be princesses, and their early years of being princesses, and it's them being young, and it's them being about the ages of our current main 6 ponies, and that's what this is going through. But because it's journal entries, it's very, very different from what you're dealing with, though I'm writing my own book now, so I know what you're talking about as far as that goes, and writing in past tense. It is totally weird.
It's really weird.
It's weird. And I find with the writing, I'm always happy when I get to write dialogue. It's like, oh, I'm writing description stuff. Oh, let's have them talk to each other. Yeah. And that makes me happy. And just the formatting stuff. I'm always like, is this how I'm supposed to format it? And then I'll go and I'll look at a book and try and see if am I doing it right. And then I'll be reading a book. I'm like, oh, that's how they do it? And then I go and I change my book
The
again.
other thing that was hard to get used to is in a script, you can never say what a character's thinking.
Right.
But in a book, you're obviously free to do that.
Yeah.
You should do that. So that took a lot of getting used to, too.
Yeah. And it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's that you get to do that. But then you go back to the script writing, you're like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of that jumping back and forth is weird.
Just one quick clarification. So this book is going to be considered canon, I assume.
Yes.
And then I guess the follow-up question, and then we'll go to Q&A, is how many fanfic writers do you think will be crying over this?
I think a lot. I think I'm going to explode a whole lot of headcanon.
Surely nobody has written a fanfic about that topic. Right?
All right. Well, I think what we're
You're welcome.
I think what we're going to do is I think we're going to have a floating microphone with somebody who's going to be handing it off for questions.
Is it really going to float? That would be so cool.
Unicorn magic, exactly, like what he said. So if I could get somebody from AV to come pick up this microphone or have one back there so we can hand it off to people who have questions. I guess I'll just clarify really quick for everybody. Yes, while they are working on future seasons and other amazing things, I don't think they're allowed to give away too many spoilers.
You can
Just
try.
a few.
You can try.
Just a few.
Yeah, just a couple.
They can't answer everything. You can certainly push them if you'd like to, especially Emily Larson.
We'll just tell you no.
All right. So if you have a question, raise your hand, and let's see. Do we have the mic ready to go?
It's floating.
We're getting another one? Okay. Well, let's start with this one for now. So I guess, I don't know, why don't we start right there? Or he's just sitting down? Or okay.
Is it difficult to switch between the mindset of two different characters when you're writing dialogue like that? Or do you kind of concentrate on one and then the other, or do them both at the same time?
It's pretty natural to just bounce between, for me, to bounce between them. It's actually really enjoyable. I like just going, you just kind of go between them. And often you have a third character. It's just very natural.
It's pretty easy too at this point in season 5.
Mm-hmm.
We've written them all so many times.
Yeah.
The first, my first episode was Swarm of the Century, and that was really, and she was even earlier than me by 7 episodes. But there's nothing to listen to. We didn't know what the girls sounded like, and we didn't know really what they sounded like on the page even. So trying to figure out, like, all I had to read when I wrote that was probably her episode, maybe one more. Not much to go on. So that was a lot harder than trying to figure out how they sounded and what they would say to each other. But now it's easy. You actually hear Andrea or Michelle or whoever.
Yeah, now it's like hanging out with old friends, is what I liken it to. I love going back to Ponyville. Other shows that I write for, it's like, I don't know what these, but these characters, it's kind of easy.
Yeah, coming on to any show at the beginning, it's fun and it's really fun, but it's really difficult.
Yeah.
When you can't listen to it or see it, because I remember the first time I saw this show was the season 2 Writer Summit. Lauren showed us the pilot, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" I didn't know it was going to look like that. That's amazing. Yeah. It's like Skittles like smeared across the screen.
Okay.
What gives you the inspiration to make the basis or the storyboard for your episodes?
Well, they don't do the storyboarding themselves. That's the artist.
It's changed a little bit. The first couple seasons, we'd have a writer's summit at the beginning of the season where we'd all just brainstorm ideas, and Lauren and Rob or Megan would say, "Here's kind of the overall idea for the season," and we would just throw as many out as we could, and then Lauren and Rob would write them up into premises. So I would get an email saying, "Here's the next episode you're doing," and it would be the premise for Lunar Eclipsed. But now it's changed a little bit because Megan likes us to write our own premises, so we submit premises to her. And it's just kind of, I think what Amy was talking about earlier, thinking about 2 characters and what would be a good thing to happen between them. So, or sometimes Megan will say, "We have very few Rarity episodes.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas for a Rarity episode?" Something like that.
Yeah, it's just coming up, just spitball. You go. What inspires you? What do you want to write about? and you just try and come up with ideas. We'll often, like Mitch says, we'll get into a room and just kind of bounce ideas around now and again, and try and come up with things.
And you can definitely feel when it's like, okay, that's a definite episode, or when you're trying to force it, but you still do it anyways. But you can kind of tell.
Why don't you stand up when you're asking a question too, so they can see it? There you go.
How much time is an equestrian moon meant to be?
That's such a good question, and I don't know
Let's
the
ask
answer.
M.A. Larson.
Yeah, I don't know. I
I forgot that was a thing, and I actually wrote years in a script recently, and I got a note, change this to moons. So I have no idea. I didn't even remember that was a thing.
Although I think there are moons and years. I've
Oh,
heard.
really? It was months.
I've heard moons and years.
Well, and this show in general is kind of an organically growing thing. I mean, when you guys started off, like you mentioned earlier, there's the show Bible that has some things set, but it kind of grows as the show needs it, right?
Yeah.
If I had a guess, I'd say like 30 seconds. Maybe. Canon.
This is for Amy Keating Rogers.
Yes.
Do you really plan out your stories well in advance, or do you just wing them like M.A. Larson?
I let Mitch plan out my stories.
There's something. He's lurking around with that microphone.
How would you say you've changed and matured both as writers and people over the past 4 years?
Wow.
I'm a lot more tired. I think I'm a much stronger writer. We know these characters a lot better, and so writing these scripts, I think I'm better at. I feel more confident writing these scripts, and then going into other shows, I feel more confident writing them.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword because if I turn in a script for the show now, I'm like, there it is, done, perfect. And then I get notes, and I'm like, wait a minute. No, it's perfect. But like the first season, I was like, here's a script. I don't know. Is this what you wanted? And then you get the notes, like, oh, okay, you get direction. But yeah, I mean,
say less explosions.
right. Yeah,
Scale back the action.
less beige.
This is a question for Amy. I was wondering, when you were writing Pinkie Pride, did you know that Weird Al was going to voice Cheese Sandwich? And if you did you write the character specifically for him?
I knew when I started that they were hopeful they were going to get Weird Al. And then as I continued, they were getting more and more confident. And then by the time I was done, they knew they had him. So as I was writing, I was supposed to be writing as if it was going to be Weird Al. Because they were gunning for him. They were like, yeah, we're going to get him. So that's who I wrote. That's who I was supposed to be writing for throughout the whole thing. Because if we weren't getting him, we were going to get somebody as close to him as humanly possible. But they had every intention of getting him. So yeah. That's who I was writing for through the whole thing.
Someone over on this side.
Hey, sorry. I got two short questions. Hopefully that's okay. Sorry for breaking the rules. Question for either or both of you. If you could write an episode with no limits or restrictions of time or anything at all, what would you write? And second, do you think we'll ever see an episode where Spike turns himself into a pony to try to get ready to like him more?
Spike turned himself into a pony? Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed the ending of that.
Okay. Can I answer the
Please.
Spike one?
Yeah.
Spike is a child.
He's a baby dragon.
Okay. just everybody wants Spike and Rarity to hook up, but Spike is a child, so just remember Spike is a child. So if he turned himself into a pony, he would be the age of like a Cutie Mark Crusader, maybe. Okay? So just remember, creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So that's my first thing. Creepy. So
I would love to do just a. God, this sounds worse the more I think about it. Just an episode just following Celestia around on an ordinary day, like going shopping.
as she passes treaties.
Yeah, exactly. Just a day where there's nothing going on. You know, she needs to get the tire changed on her chariot and stuff like that. I think that'd be really fun.
This sounds incredibly boring.
Exactly.
It would be awesome. No action scenes at all.
As she gets her mane flowed.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to get my mane flowed. Get my eyeliner done. Oh, hold on.
Amy's getting a call.
Oh, hold on. Yes. Hold on. That's my husband. Yes. Oh wait, hold on. There's no sound. Yes.
Is he on speakerphone?
I don't know.
Aaron,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
your father.
Yes.
While she figures that out,
Yes?
there was a comic where
Oh, I've never done this FaceTime thing.
Are you FaceTiming him?
I don't know. I'm on a thing, and
He's going to be so mad.
well, he FaceTimed me. Oh, my poor connection. This is my daughter.
everybody, this is Moira, her daughter.
You did kind of fix it just by holding it up in the air.
I call it selfie mode. Dad, father.
This is sorry. Maybe you go out and talk to him. Okay.
I was just gonna,
Sorry.
We'll call him later.
I was just going to mention really quick. There was a comic that I don't remember which issue. Somebody will know it. Where Luna and Celestia, or Luna does Celestia's job for a day. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's the micro series. That's right. And she goes absolutely insane. And it's awesome.
Should be.
Yep, that's right. They show scenes of Celestia just like hanging out at a spa or whatever.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Like a 3-hour episode. Like
it would have an interlude with an overture that plays.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get to the next question. This guy's sneaky. He hides in the audience and he just
Then he
pops
pops
up
up.
out of nowhere.
He also makes sure we have good questions first.
That's a good thing.
Okay. All right. So this question revolves around the fact that My Little Pony exists because Hasbro is trying to sell toys. How do you approach it when you're asked to write an episode based around something new that they want to do? I'm thinking most particularly of Twilight becoming an alicorn or things like the Crystal Ponies. I'm just really curious how you approach it when you're asked to write an episode for something like that, or what your kind of thought process is or brainstorming process.
I can't believe you just said the H word in here.
They're always watching.
Oh, I got butt dialed.
It's pronounced stool dialed here.
I thought it was flank dialed. I think just the way Lauren approached this whole show, we try and approach it very respectfully, and we just go, okay, this entire show is based off of a toy series, so the series is based off of a toy series, or it's based off a product. So we go, okay, they want to, this to be introduced. So how do we do this and make it cool? And that's what this is. That's what this is about. Is that the toys are what kind of is the bread and butter kind of thing, but we want to make the storyline cool no matter what. So we want the storyline to, we want we want the storyline to service the toy. How do I say this? The
Yeah.
storyline to service the toy, not the toy to service the storyline.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I think so.
We don't want it to be like, oh, here's a new toy, blah. We want it to be, oh, here's an awesome story. Oh, and there happens to be a toy. Right? It's a toy line. That's just a fact. You guys wouldn't have this awesome show if there wasn't this awesome toy. So, they go hoof and hoof. So.
I almost don't even really think of it as separate things because, especially in the early days, you were given a premise. Here's the one you're doing. If there happens to be a toy element to it, it's just another part of what you've got to do.
Right.
You're writing a half-hour show, so your scripts are about 30 pages, and there's nothing you can do about that. You're going to have this. You're doing a Rarity episode. There's nothing you can do about that. You're doing an episode of the hot air balloon in it. There's nothing you can do about that. You just do it the best you can. So, like the hot air balloon, I've used it in a couple of them because I actually kind of like it, but it's a toy.
Right.
So I was like, okay, let's do a big high-speed hot air balloon chase.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another thing that you have as a kind of border to what you're doing, which is good. It helps to have things you have to do.
So it's not inhibiting the process. That is what you're saying.
Right.
It's more like
I've never had a problem with the toy element in my episodes.
Yeah, like
I don't even really know when it's that the toy company's in Rhode Island, and I don't even sometimes know till after the fact that the toy company wanted this in the show. It's not.
Yeah, we're not part of those meetings.
Yeah.
So we kind of go. I know what were those, the breezies? Yeah, they were a toy, and so it was like, oh, we need to come up with some breezy ideas. So a bunch of us came in with breezy ideas, and we picked the best one. And there were a bunch of good breezy ideas. And so it wasn't like, oh, we have to come up with a breezy idea. It was like, oh, let's come up with a bunch of fun ideas for the breezies. And we all, there were a bunch of fun ideas. So it wasn't a burden. It was hey, this is fun. So, it's not bad to come up with fun ideas that for, little cute characters. It's a pretty fun thing to do in your day.
And it's usually just another thing in the mix when we have a writer's summit. It's like, we're going to focus on the gala this season, and we need to introduce a train, and we want to introduce so-and-so's sister. It's like another thing in the mix. So.
Okay, I'm going to try not to step on Season 5's toes, but I do have a very interesting question. I know a lot of the fans are actually interested in this. Are we going to get any more family backstories, like Fluttershy's family, Scootaloo's family, what happened to Applejack's parents? Because I know it was kind of briefed on in the Applejack family reunion. So are we going to get any more of those family units? Because I know we've focused on a couple, so we're wondering if we're going to get the others.
I don't know either. Personally, I haven't, but I don't know if others have. So
I haven't.
don't know. We'll find out when you do.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is we're all freelance. We're not all.
Yeah, we're all freelance. I have not written about any of those.
That's really only we can say is I haven't done those.
Yeah, I haven't done those
That's
stories.
not to say somebody else has. I don't know.
Because we don't. I honestly don't, unless I'm in a story meeting with somebody else who's written about it. I don't know if somebody else has. So that's.
It's entirely possible that the whole Scootaloo family was written right after mine. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. It's the weird thing about not being in house with everybody, and maybe people don't know this. We're all freelance, so that means we don't hang out in the studio all together. So the only time we do see each other is when we have these spitball meetings.
Which is basically once per season.
Yeah, and then we all come up with ideas, and then Megan pitches them, but then we don't know which ones stick. We don't know which ones are approved and which ones aren't approved, and so maybe some are approved, but then other things might end up, and things then don't get approved, and then other ideas, other meetings happen, or Megan might pitch other things, or DHX might pitch things, or Hasbro might have their ideas. So various things end up happening that, as freelancers, we're not privy to. And so I am trying to avoid your question. I'll be honest about that. But I'm also saying that we're not, we don't get a little memo saying, hey, these are all the episodes that we're doing, because being freelance, we don't find out.
Or they just don't have families.
They're spawned. Okay, I think we have time for about 2 more questions, but I will let everybody know that there are 2 more writers associated panels this weekend, one tomorrow and then one Sunday as well. So if you don't get your question answered today, there's a good chance you'll get it answered this weekend. So,
hi. Okay. I just wanted to know. I don't know how accurate the script's dialogue is to what ends up on the show, and I would picture Andrea Libman, who voices Pinkie Pie, to maybe have a lot to say. Maybe she improvises dialogue. So I guess what I want to know, have you ever had any of the actors improvise their own dialogue, or have they done it on their own, or?
Actually, they stick really close to what we write.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of improvisation.
No, that's one of the cool things.
No.
No improvisation, whatever the word is.
There's changes here or there. It's usually for timing to make sure it fits in the proper time.
Yeah.
But mostly they stick pretty closely to what's in the script.
Yeah, it's cool for us.
Because actors can't think for themselves. You really have to guide them.
Really stupid.
I think that Andrea might already be in the building, so you got to be careful.
Whatever.
So I think we got time for about 1 more question. I don't know. He's got his hand up the whole time here, Coco.
Yeah.
So do you think you can yell it? Yeah, you.
Right front.
You, right there. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, when you guys write a script, it's like 1.5 years before you actually see the episode on TV.
Yeah, it's generally 9 months before we see it on TV.
That's what I meant.
No.
It's never less time, and sometimes they delay it airing. But I have written a script, and I have gestated a child, and then the episode aired. So
Moira's over there just holding her head like this.
that is true.
Okay.
I have two examples for this. Because I just know these times. Magical Mr. Cure I wrote in November of 2011, and it aired February of 2013. So there you go. And it aired a lot different than what I wrote, but we'll just leave that there. And the other one thing is, on Sunday I'm doing a breakdown of Cutie Chronicles, kind of in depth. So I was kind of researching it, looking at my notes.
Was that the poll winner?
Yeah, by far, by a landslide. I found this fascinating email because I was looking through old emails for it. I emailed Lauren after it aired, so it must have been the day it aired, and said, nice job. And she wrote back, and that it was the email where she told me she wasn't coming back for season 3. So that'll give you an idea, the sense of timing there. A season 1 episode that wasn't even the last one was that far along when it aired into season 2. Probably towards the end of season 2. So it's a long gap.
All right. Well, like I said, there's going to be a writer's panel tomorrow. There's also going to be Amy's movie tonight.
Come and see it. It's funny. I know it's not pony related, but it's actually pre-pony. So
you guys are the first people who get to see it too. Yeah. This is the first time.
World premiere.
Besides friends and stuff. But you guys, you'll become my friends. You'll know so much about me. You'll see the inside of my house. You'll cry for me a little and realize I'm a bit of a stalker. And you'll cry. You'll be afraid of me.
But yeah, check your schedules. You'll see there are a few panels, and then of course M.A. Larson's going to do his thoroughly deconstructing his episode, and then also Pinkie Pride songs tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah. Come and hear me sing. Yeah.
All right, let's give it up for Amy Keating Rogers and M.A. Larson.
Thanks, guys.